Yes. I must have figured out how to open doors.
Uh-oh. One seems to be learning. All right, all right. So, since that was totally fair, it was under 15 seconds, I claim. All right, and of course, I'm in my own ear because I'm a professional YouTuber, but hey guys, what's going on? Memes here. I see the real one on the nation, the gaming version there. But all right. So the topic of the again, there's no whiteboard in front of me. Yes, we still have the dragon thing. And I'm not even wearing sunglasses. Oh my God, what mixed up world is this? Hey, it's a Friday night. It's all right. So, welcome one and all as folks are coming in from all over the internet, whether it's the YouTubes, the X Twitters, where the skies are blue, the Discord seas, whatever it might be. We're going to talk about something interesting. And the reason why I showed the proverbial clip of, well, let's go back to it, the raptor opening up the door. And again, this has been like a minute or so commentary here, but why am I showing the raptor opening the door? Okay, it's that whole concept. What's the door handle? It's a tool to undo the latch. It's a lock set. I personally, I actually like lock sets, especially when they're straightforward. I was actually like halfway decent at them. Hey, Rick, thank you for joining, my friend. But the thing is, the reason why I'm showing the raptor opening up the doors, and that iconic scene, it just reminded me of something that Curt Jaimungal from the Theories of Everything podcast, shout out to Curt. He had interviewed a professor, I believe it was a Yang-Hui. The other, let's go back over here. It is, of course, it's in my history somewhere here. Oh, here we go. This is Curt's channel. Mungo. And basically, he was talking with the professor here. And at one point in the plot, he was happened to be a professor of like physics and mathematics and everything. And he's actually put together a presentation on quote unquote AI. I'm going to use the term AI agents. Why? Because that's probably more. If you say the term LLM, I realize if you're within the sphere and you've heard the term large language model a bunch of times, you know what that is. Occasionally, I go onto Twitter with some other spheres I influence. I'm like, oh, it's an LLM. And they're like, what's an LLM? And as Jen from the Church of Entropy, shout out to Jen, has pointed out, a lot of folks, when they just hear AI, they think ChatGPT. Even though that's not technically what it is, but I'm going to say AI agent. Why? Because as far as we know, we're all different agents of different stuff and things. Maybe unum e pluribus, something like that, out of one many. That's my personal opinion here. But let's go to this one. This was about 2 weeks ago. Yes. And of course, I was going back and forth through the screenshots of which one I should use. And I was just going to use this blatantly, this guy right here, and rip it off. But I'm like, okay. So
were those two worlds?
Hold on. Let's go to the actual timestamp. Why? Because I saw this. Oh, who would ever write something like that? Oh, it knows to go to Wolf. Oh, did I put another timestamp there? Oh, I know Xanthius. Okay, that's fine. Never mind. We'll go up
GPT
here.
now.
Okay. So at least for ChatGPT, I'm pretty sure the other LLMs like Claude and whatnot can do this now. So let's go back a little bit. Okay.
The 17th digit in the decimal expansion of 22 divided by 29, like whatever, and that it's completely random because you.
Okay, I think Casey, the Casey pointed this out to me. He's like, just have within the chat GPTs from a while back, have it list 44 digits. And you go through them like, it only did like 38. I asked it again, then it did like 42, and then it did 46. And then like the fifth or sixth time, it actually listed like 44 digits. Why? It's designed to give you a response that one would typically find upon the internet. And if you ask for a whole butt ton of digits, so to speak, yes, that's the technical term for it. You're probably going to get a wrong answer. So I think that was very interesting. But he's going to go on to the whole main point. Continue, Professor.
Can't train it. You actually have to do long division. This is primary school level stuff. and yet GPT just simply cannot do. And it's inconceivable that it could do it because no language model could possibly do this.
That's a
But
large
GPT now,
language model.
01, 02, 01 is already clever enough. When you ask him a question like this, linguistically, it knows to go to Wolfram Alpha. And then it's okay. Then it's actually doing the math.
Okay, all right. So that's basically the whole point for this combination. Because I heard that and I'm like, that would probably explain a lot of things. Because at least about a year or so ago, actually, it was a year or so ago around this time, one of the extra plugins for ChatGPT had come out. So if you got whatever the slightly fancier version was, you could download and install a plugin. So there's a Wolfram Alpha plugin. So you could just ask it things in that, and it would go through. And now the Wolfram system has like its own personal AI assistant. So you could probably just ask within the notebook itself. But as soon as he said that, as soon as he said that the newer models know that if they're going to a mathematical thing where it's not just like, I'm just going to fill in the next word or letter of the text that should give a response. Like if you ask it the capital of the United States, it's probably going to say Washington, D.C., because it's just a standard generic response. Or as Professor Wolfram might say, the cat sat on the blank. It's probably going to say Matt. Why? Because, well, that lines up with our standard responses and stuff. If you're going to ask it like 22 divided by 7, maybe it will give you the first couple of digits to pi. Maybe it'll give you all the digits to pi. If it's giving you all the digits to pi, then it's totally wrong because I don't know what it comes out to be. It deviates after, I think, the 5th or 6th digit. Something like that. Hey, Grizz. It's, yes, exploring physics within the semantic space. Well, this is technically an AI thing. I heard this and I thought it was really cool. And then I was struggling to figure out what I should actually talk about because I can kind of get over the groove. There's some things I've been exploring where it's like, okay, I'm not sure we're ready to talk about this publicly yet. We need to wait on some other things. So I'm like, what can I actually talk about? And I thought back to this and I'm like, well, number one, last time I used a little screenshot with Curt, Jaimungal, and Anton in it. We got a lot more views, so we got to get the selfishness out of the way, number one. And number two, I then expanded upon it, and that's hence the name of the title, When AI Agents Learn to Use Tools. And that's why I use the proverbial raptor clip of it's like, are you sure the third raptor is contained? Yes. Unless they've learned to use doors. AKA the door handle, it's learning how to use a tool. Within that movie, that was completely terrifying because like, oh my God, this is why we lock our doors at night so the raptors can't get in and eat us. I'm not saying that would happen, but I digress. Hey! Oh, and we've got a Titan join us. Welcome, Titan, as well. Good to see you, my friends, as well as we've got Jez as well. Yes, absolutely. Listen, Rick, here's the thing. When you start asking, it's like, all right, so which is the larger number? 9.11, 9.9. You give it a list. And very often, even at University of Utah, they had a nice little talk where somebody was going over just a lot of this basic stuff where it's like, if you've been paying attention to it for a while, you've been listening to like crazy person like me that'll listen to like multiple hour live stream, Professor Wolfram kind of laying out how these things work and stuff. It's like, okay, I don't know how it works, but I at least have an intuition about how things are being constructed there. I may not know the fine grains of all the code, to be fair. I think a lot of people that create it, they don't even necessarily know where all the fine grain things are, but there's a lot of research at it. And it's bringing up the point where, okay, if these things are going to be forms of agents, and people can argue about that. I mean, it's not like low-key a year or two ago, there was an AI rights bill passed. Just, you hear about it for like one day and then never again. Why might that be the case, my friends? I don't know. This is speculation. Hold on. I should probably actually play the thing to give myself an out. Okay. Oh, God. They've changed it, haven't they? Okay. Well,
you finally flipped.
Okay, that was not the clip, but I still really love that clip from Ultraman Towards the Future. All right. In order to cover my butt, we conjecture it.
Although this is going to be weird. and it's going to be about a different.
Title of the conference was something like "Ground Truth" or "Turtles All the Way Down," and so it seems as though there's one Ruliad. I don't think it rules them all, and it might be just hyper-rulial turtles all the way down.
Yes, it's on the back of an infinite number of hyper-rulial turtles.
Various people are commenting on the outrage of hacking the universe on a MacBook Air.
Full disclosure, there's a MacBook Pro. We want to be as open and transparent as we can, so the way my mind works is this fragments of different things that I experience, and that's kind of how we got here too, where it's like, here are these things. This would be kind of cool if we lined it up. Let's put the Go Ninja Go from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Why? Because we can. It made me laugh. Okay. So the whole point of this is what happens when you have these agents, these entities, these things that we happen to be utilizing as tools in the positive sense, when they start to learn how to use tools as well. I think this is an interesting thing because I think aside from being able to write and regurgitate things and all the more negative context things, which people are still using apparently, let's not neglect that occasionally there have been some published papers and literally within the first page, they didn't cut out the ChatGPT. Like it literally said, as recorded by this ChatGPT, or the thing where you're looking at the mouse, it's like, I've never seen a mouse that looked like that. Maybe that's just a really lucky mouse, or I don't think different mouse organelles are shaped like that, and probably shouldn't be published in a journal and raise a number of questions about other things. But so the whole point of this is he's basically just going on to it. It's like, all right, now we have different tools. Okay, now we have tools because apparently with Professor Hui. Oh my God, left out his actual last name. Well, that was my racism for you. I apologize. Should probably actually change that. But essentially, he had a new child, and he's like, after many sleepless nights, I had a bunch of time, but I couldn't really think in the way to do proper mathematics. So I'm like, let me just load a whole bunch of data into some large language models, try to start training it. And he's like, yeah, maybe we'll do some things okay. But since he was training in a very particular way to focus on the type of research he was working on, it actually responded very well. And it apparently had a high degree of accuracy. It wasn't perfect by any means. But at the same time, he was talking about, wait a second, this has a much higher degree of accuracy than I was suspecting. Why might that be? And if we have the newer models that are like, okay, now you're going to ask us a mathy type question. And I might not just randomly know that. So let me send an inquiry to something like Wolfram Alpha, because even Professor Wolfram said one of their largest new bases of customers are LLMs, large language models, making inquiry to the Wolfram Alpha knowledge base there. Because a lot of the stuff there is actually curated from sources. Like it's like, all right, we need to call up the Department of Agriculture from Turkey to list the actual numbers of turkeys within Turkey. And apparently, I think that ended up being restricted data or something like that. They wouldn't give them access to it. So it's like unknown. It seems like a strange thing, but essentially what we're talking about is, okay, like our friends the Raptors, they can learn how to use doors. What's to stop, so to speak? And again, I'm not being a domer, a glomer, or anything. So what happens when the AI learns to open up doors too? I'm just saying, if there's one thing I've learned, it's like no matter how fancy a lock you make, it's a lock. That means there's a key. Now, it might not necessarily be in the form that we would immediately think. Perhaps that's the difficult part. But how do we actually go from unknown, unlocking, oh my God, duh? I don't have the answer. I'm hoping somebody out there actually does. Hey, Max. It's Max is talking about the ChatGPT with Wolfram. Listen, man, occasionally I put in some things and I'm like, I'm just a crazy person. And usually ChatGPT seems to like to say very nice things and be like, oh, this is intriguing. If something like this was here or there, the Wolfram thing will be like, that's interesting, but you should also consider that there's a wealth of other things out there and blah, blah, blah. It's usually much more cautionary when it's saying because it's actually trying to like validate things. But even at one point or another, you put in some calculation and it's like, consider this. Does this point out this? Does this seem simpler than this? And then at one point, I'm like, if we had other such things like this, would this be worthy of publishing and sharing with other folks? And it's like, yes, here's the following reason. That was the part that slightly surprised me. I'm just like, because again, yes, am I guiding in a particular way? Sure. And it's going to always say, it's like, well, trust, but verify. That's the thing. That's supposed to be the whole science thing. You can conjecture whatever you want. Now, if it holds up to experiment, that's great. And that's one of the benefits / knocks against string theory. And again, I'm not a string theorist and stuff like that. I'm not smart enough to do all that math. But the thing is, with string theory, apparently to test it, it's actually very simple. We just need a particle collider the size of the solar system, or at least out to like Neptune or so. Why? Because with our current technology, that could get us up to at least close to, or I think like 2 pi from the Planck energy. Therefore, at that point, we should be able to observe our vibrating strings, whether they're open, closed, loop, 1B, or whatever it is. There's like 5 different types of string theories. So it's like, okay, we're probably not going to be able to do that in the next few hundred years. I could be wrong. It would be totally cool. Because ultimately, apparently, that's the only real prediction that we currently. They're trying to do it, and there's been more articles that maybe we could do it in this way, do it in this way. I know Dr. Hossenfelder has been given string theory a little bit of a maybe a little slightly heavier than some light jabs. Welcome up cycle. Here's the thing, Max, with O1. Here's the thing. When I use that, my problem was, and this is actually probably, this is number one on me. And for O1, asked it to make a 16:9 picture. Something that ChatGPTs and DALL-E from like years ago could easily do. It then told me it did not have the ability, but then described in detail what it could look like. And at that point, I used it like twice, and I wouldn't do it. I'm like, this is the fancy thing. I only have X amount of times, like 40 times or something an hour. I can do this. It's like, you can't make me a picture with all that extra compute. And then I just swapped over to like the base like 4.0 or whatever the model was. And that worked totally fine. It just, so that was on me trying to use it. It's like, okay, I need to replace a piece of sheetrock. Okay. I'm going to need an electron microscope to get this to exactly 18 inches on the dot. Now, you could do that, perhaps, and then use your electron microscope and do all this, and it happened. I'm like, to be fair, if you're within about 1/8 of an inch, you just mark here, mark halfway through, mark at the other end, and you do a little line, assuming it was cut at a right angle, which most of them are. You just take your sheetrock knife and you just go over and then you just break it. You probably don't need no electron microscope or anything that fancy. Might be overkill. And to be fair, it's like, hey boss, that $30 hole you want me to patch, I need to get a $30,000 scanning electron microscope in order to do. Yeah, probably job's not gonna last. That's yes, cycle. It's just wave goodbye to my job. That's these things happen. But okay, so the point is, and it was actually very interesting just because at one point he says, let's see, class, go back here, boom, let's change forever. You don't just want to, there. Should have transcript. Okay. What do we think is in here more? Let's say, is LLM here more? Search and video. Okay, let's do this. Let's just do the generalized search. I'm curious from my own point. Where are we? It's LLM. 7 mentions. How about stuff? Okay. Wow. It apparently only has. Oh wait. Do I need to take that out? Is that my? Am I screening it too much? Okay. So let's look for LLM. Okay, it's 10 times at least in the document. Stuff is in there 32 times. How about thing? Thing is in there 180 times. All right. Those of you that have been listening to the blasphemy coming out of my mouth for long enough know that I'm a fan of simplifying things into what? Stuff those things. That's all. But what is it? Log. What am I doing? Okay. Yeah. So basically, that x over log x, basically that's how we get to e. So
Since Euclid on the distribution of primes.
Mhm.
How did Gauss say this was x over log x? I don't know. Because he had a really great neural network. And this happens over and over again. Like, the Bosch-Swinnerton-Dye conjecture, which I'm going to talk about later, which is one of the Millennium problems. And it's still open, and it's certainly one of the most important problems in mathematics of all time. And this is Birch and Swinnerton-Dye in a bit.
okay, so basically, he just said x over log x. All right, we can stop that, and we'll swap over to our window. Let's go here. Why is that important? X over log x. Oh God. Hey, at least give a space there. Yes, so I understand. Why is this important? Root is 0 at the domain. What does all this mean? It just, local minimum. The minimum of x to log x equals e at x equals e. What is that? That's the base of natural logarithms. Apparently Gauss is like, yeah, so that's probably what it is. And we named it after Euler. It is Euler. Euler. I'm totally setting a trap. Just because all I know is there exists a video of one of Euler's ancestors, and you're like, literally right before it, it's like, one of the descendants of Leonard Euler. Yes, I'm so-and-so of the house of Euler. I'm like, we were all right the first time. Hashtag not all. The prime number theorem. Primes are cool. I'll leave it at that. I'm not enough of an expert on that. Okay. So what does this mean? Okay. We have this tool where you can do this, and now you have something that's gone across. It's been trained on the internet. It's been trained on the Library of Congress. It's now has all this data, and we're feeding more and more stuff into it, and we're interacting, and we're causing it to change. And some may say adapt. Some may say evolve. I remember watching an AI, I think like 20 years ago. It was called Evolver. And ultimately it ended up turning into some Terminator style like destruction weapon. It was like, Evolver never loses. And then even at the end, it's like, Evolver never loses. Until it did. But that was a very side shot there. But okay. You've got something that has the ability to be used as a calculator. It also has a computational knowledge base, because it's like, what's population of New York City divided by population of Dallas. And we didn't specify other things there. All right, about 6.75 according to the 2020 census estimates. Okay. So it just did that. So it's giving you a little thing. I'm not sure if I should be surprised or not by that. But I mean, that's Oh, it's using Texas. What if we use Dallas, Georgia? It's probably going to be much larger. 627 times. Yeah, it's a lot larger than. But basically, we have these tools. So okay, it could just randomly drop from a fact. Why is this important? Well, I think one of the reasons it's important is because also why now when Siri came out, the Siri, the little chat assistant that you can like never actually turn off. At least that I found, uh, it and Alexa. Now it could Apple and Amazon could have just been like, just do a generic Google search and stuff like that. But they did not do that. They decided to outsource it to Wolfram Alpha. It's kind of like it feels like the computational equivalent of those that know BDO. Why? Just because of the commercial that I heard enough times so that meme is stuck in my head. But those that know Wolfram. Why? Well, number one, the calculator is free. It was a thing so crazy that even Stephen Wolfram, maybe the next time I get him on, we'll talk about Wolfram Alpha. It was such a crazy idea, he literally needed to hide it from some of his senior management because he was afraid they would talk him out of it. But so we have that. So it's like, okay, now we have tools, and now we've developed tools that utilize natural language as an interface. Okay, so if we can use that as an interface, what else can we do with it? I don't know. Let's see. Oh my god. Is this? Oh, the last. This is adorable. Hold on. Okay, this is slightly freaky. It's one of the last things I'd use it for was. Yes. Our little joke. Is make a 16:9 picture of the joke. A Higgs walks into an H bar. We have a nice little H bar here. And then this groovy thing that's obviously sparkling, which means it's a particle. It has an arm and two legs. And it says, hi, bar with some B random Cyrillic subscript. Okay. This is the one we actually used for the other video. And then I'm like, can we adjust that a little bit more, make it more sciencey? And then he just gave him on both sides. You know, both sides. Well, obviously, this guy's a physicist, right? Because he has a beard and long hair back there. So that's obviously how we can tell. And then we've got, it looks like a sideways interval over there. Okay. So what's the whole point of this? Because basically, we're human beings. We design tools because part of this comes from at least my lived experience as a gamer. I know. We're going to go into the sociological aspects of gaming, but if you've ever played a survival game, what's the first thing you do? You show up on a beach. You're completely buck naked aside from your skivvies, and then you need to survive. What's the first thing you do? You go and you punch a tree. Why? Because that's how you harvest wood if you don't have anything else. You just start whacking on a tree. Maybe you take some of that wood. And then you pick up like some grass or some thatch. You pick up a stone and you get a kind of like stone with a bit of an edge on it. And then you wrap it around. Now you have an axe. And now you can whack at the tree with an axe. And then get more wood, and then do more stuff, and then you start making thatch huts, and then wood houses and stuff, and then you build better and better tools, and then eventually you learn how to smelt metal, and you're smelting things, then you get metal tools, then you build up more, you get more technology, you get like some volcanic rocks and everything, and other materials that you can grind into like cementing paste, make cement and everything, and then ultimately you start building lathes, and then you get like flak jackets. And that was basically my experience playing Ark Survival Evolved, because you start to gather resources, and then you use your science technology in that form. They called them engrams, which basically just the thought or notion of what you're actually going to create. So you would pick those up via blueprints, and occasionally you could unlock them. And then as you would do that, you would build more, you would advance faster, and as you advance faster, you would become better at getting resources. And then instead of having to go around and punch a tree with your fist, eventually you tame a freaking like brontosaurus, okay, probably like brachiosaurus or something like that. You have it do one swing of its tail and you harvest like, I don't know, like a dozen trees all at once, rather than having to punch at it with your fist to get one unit of logs every few seconds or whatnot. It's like, all right, you just got like 300 something units in one swipe. All right, congratulations. So now in real life, we do that via crazy machines rather than brontosauruses to like slice down and do all these things. But it's about resource acquisition. And then maybe you want to be efficient as well. So maybe you wouldn't want to waste all those things as well. Because it's like, you know, it would. You can totally use that for fire. So you're going to do that. And then it's like, oh, wait a second. Oh, we could use some coal. All right, burn some coal. Oh, wait, we burn some oil. Oh, we burn some natural gas. Oh, look, we got these really spicy rocks. Let's put them in the right combination. Oh, we got some fission. Oh, maybe we could do some fusion. And then that's always 30 years away. So there was no real direction for that rant there. It's basically just saying that as we advance, as we get better at doing different stuff with different things, we're going to develop new things and we're going to be able to extend our ability to influence stuff to greater and greater magnitudes. Now, that's going to be fine. Personally, I think it'd be nice as we're doing our crazy experiments and everything to maybe have humanity spread out a little bit more, just in case if there was any oopsie or a big giant rock we didn't happen to be paying attention to because we spent too much time on Twitter. Um, it would be nice to know we could let humanity endure for a little while longer until perhaps there is some ultimate end. Perhaps there is the heat death of the humans. Perhaps at some point we're either going to need to convert ourselves into light itself, or we're going to be going to a very infinitesimally small place where we're probably just going to come out as more elementary things. But those things aside, I would like humanity continue for a very long time. Why? Live long and prosper. It's an emoji, so why don't we take it? Okay. So getting back into LLMs, let's maybe we do the Wolfram thingy. We got the Wolfram thingy yet? Where was that? Oh, we had this too. Okay. So actually the other thing too is okay, let's go back into teachers. So from tutor. This is like the next thing that they're coming out. Oh my god, wow. It is medieval collectibles. Wolfram makes tunics? What is this? I did not know any of this. Hold on. Okay. Wolfram cotton tunic. Medieval collectibles. Long kit. Don't mind me saving that for like Wolfram, because Wolfram was also, I think, in Germany. It's it is the name of an element because Arm is gold. So the tutor domain, okay. Proteins, stuff. Algebra tutor. Oh, I'm spelling tutor wrong. There we go. That's fine. Private algebra. Oh, introduction. Okay, that's the tutor. Okay, so they haven't released it yet. Okay, so it looks like Theodore Gray. I have no idea who this person is. They're just in the first term of results. Let's leave it as it. It's ambitious product tree and AI method. Okay. Oh, it's written by a grant. Okay. So let's just go to what Stephen Wolfram told me to the best of my recollection. So basically what he said is they're starting off with an algebraic tutor, something they could use for high schoolers. What does that mean? Okay. So basically, you can literally interact and give you problems. You can ask it to do the problems. You could do the same problems on its own. But what it's designed to do is to adjust itself into your learning style, because as it interacts, it should be able to tighten up because it's literally learning from the individual. And so it might be better at maybe emphasize certain things, like you missed these things before in this particular area. So maybe you should focus on these things in this particular area there. And just the big thing for me, the big thing is I asked the teacher like a decade ago. I'm like, because Common Core had been rolled out over the past like decade or so before that. And it's like, okay, what are your thoughts on Common Core? Because he had been teaching for a while. It took a second and he thought about it. He's like, the kids seem to pick it up about the same either way. There are some things that are easier than others. But what I took away was the main problem that you had is if you had like parents or guardians or folks watching over kids that are learning things and they learned it the old fashioned way and they didn't never learn it in Common Core, all of a sudden, if they're trying to help kids with their homework, all of a sudden it's like, WTF, mate, what is this? I don't understand what this is, because they're laying it out in a different format. So if people actually want to help folks, they need to start learning that format. And if it's been years since they even did it the original way, and you're presenting a new format, now you're asking somebody to start thinking in a particular different way. And that can be hard, especially when people are very time pressed and a lot of other stuff going on too. And this is when hopefully your part of the country isn't on fire. Damn. But I digress. So, but the whole point of that is I looked on some of the Common Core things and I still saw things that just haunt me to this day. It's like, well, if Timmy has 5 apples and Sally has 3 apples, and Sally gives Timmy 2 of her apples, how many? All the respect to Timmy and Sally. I don't care how many apples you have. That's not interesting to me. And if you had the ability to like relate it to something like Pokemon cards or something like that, and apparently Professor Tom Crawford out of where is he? No, he's not. Might be Cambridge. Might be Oxford. I think it's Oxford. But apparently he actually has classes where he'll use like Pokemon cards and everything. Kind of like lay out some math. Still to this day, I've not watched a full one of those lectures. I've looked at some of the short things there, and I've watched a bunch of his number file videos. They're highly entertaining. I haven't sat through the full Pokemon lecture. But the point is, if you can relate it in a particular way, that makes sense. Or if you're going to talk about deck construction, a lot of times they'll lay out a battle charts, they'll have like agility, strength, stuff like that. Usually they present it as a bit of a star, and like one thing will be superior to this. It's kind of like ghost Pokemon or strong versus psych type Pokemon. That's why people would like power level ghost Pokemon to like battle Mewtwo and stuff. You'd have certain things that can be more advantageous against other things, like rock, paper, scissors, whatever it is. If we could start to quantify that and you can explain it in a way that makes sense, because like, at least for me, I think a lot of calculus and mathematics I learned from just playing World of Warcraft. Why? Well, you just obviously need to just load stuff up in this way. It's like, okay, I can be a mage dealing a whole bunch of spells and stuff like that, and I can just try to augment my damage. Now, what happens if you were to take something that would give you additional damage to your attack, but you sacrifice some of that for a chance to critical? Now, that critical might do 200% damage. Maybe it's 250% damage. So that would be a 1.5% increase. Now, how often do you get to cast? You do have to be mobile, because very often, as a magic user, there's a cast time. You can't always move with that. So you need to factor in. Hence why movement speed is probably one of the most overpowered things, because you can get into position faster, you can DPS faster, and usually you don't deal as much damage per second if your character has been destroyed from the raid and you're no longer part of it. So yes, Dead Mage deals no DPS, typically, unless they've changed it. I know Death Knight's Dead Death Knights can deal additional DPS because they can be resurrected into a ghoul. But that's a side note. God, I haven't played for years. But that's one of those things where, okay, we started off with Raptors, and unless they know how to move door handles and stuff, we're totally fine. Why? Because we can go back to this, because I also played that at the very beginning. Okay. So, the third Raptor is subdued, right?
The third one's contained.
Yes. Unless they figured out how to open doors.
A little subtle purring. Yeah. So that's basically the whole point. Where what was this Jurassic Park? Well, obviously, playing God is probably the best option. What could possibly go wrong? Except ultimately, you get to the point where, all right, we helped bring back highly intelligent apex predators. Imagine my shock that it learns how to use a door handle. No. Oh, that little clawed hand. Oh, yep. Oh, it sees you. It sees you, bro. Yeah. I'm sure this gave no one else nightmares or anything over the course of the past, I don't know. Oh, God, it's been 30 years. Because this was like 94. 94 or 96. What's Jurassic Park? Jurassic Park. 90, yes, it's been 32 years. Wow, I am so old. Okay, this actually lines up very well then, because that would mean I was like 8 years old. And I remember when I was 7, I wanted to be a paleontologist when I grew up. Why? I wanted to go dig up dinosaur bones and everything, because I thought it was fascinating. Because when you're one of those kids and you have some books and the Discovery Channel and everything, and we didn't have all the categorification that we did then, I may have legitimately known every, at least publicly, non-journal printed dinosaur. Now at this point, I have no idea. There's probably hundreds of thousands of categories now. But I remember I wanted to be a paleontologist. And I went to go see Jurassic Park. And then after watching Jurassic Park, my world was broken. I'm like, why would I go dig up dinosaur bones if we can make dinosaurs? It seemed like it wasn't as adventurous then. It's like, we have no idea what these things are like. We need to get it from the fossil record. I mean, I could just see it out like a zoo. Yeah, I took the wind out of my sails, so to speak, but not the moral of the story. Pardon. But the whole moral of the story is, I think things are computationally irreducible. That's my gut feeling. I feel like the game needs to be played out. Now, we're getting a lot of really cool AI agents and everything, and again, we're able to sample through data at extraordinarily rates that we're not even sure how it works, but I don't know. You just look for whatever. I just typed in Jurassic Park. It's going to give me the original cast and everything. Blah, 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 blah. This. Oh, you want to see the movies? Okay, trailers, clips, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know how. Is Jurassic Park okay for a 7-year-old? I think I watched it when I was 7 or 8, or at least the original one. If you want to destroy children's urge to become paleontologists, maybe. At this point, maybe it's sparking more folks to want to become paleontologists. I can't say. It's God, it's still such a good movie. But as far as AI and everything, okay, yes, we can. I think the AI, it's simply gonna take after us, for better or worse. Why? It's been trained on all the stuff and things that we've been putting onto the internet, and then you get to the point where, if a lot of things being put on the internet are from AI agents and everything, and there's slight deviation, blah, 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 it's going to come to a point where it's like, okay, is it based upon the things that we've looked into and we can verify, or are we just getting more and more a derangement slightly away from this, slightly away from that, and then it's eventually going to become more and more this way to the point where it's like the way you can tell if something is AI or not, count the fingers. Unless that person has an additional digit or is missing a digit, if it's off, then it might be AI. They seem to have trouble with fingers and feet. And again, I think Akira Toriyama actually seemed to have troubles with feet and stuff. He liked to just do little block shoes or whatever. Hey, to each their own. Some people like feet, some people don't. I happen. I think feet are cute, but that's my personal prerogative. Okay, let's go back down to let's go over here. Amazing. Uh, let's go into his presentation because basically the whole thing. Well, actually, we already kind of talked about that. Is there anything else he lists? Oh, I do like the Xena project. It does sound cool. Oh, classical prom. Here we go. It had cool pictures. That's why we're doing it. And I remember it was a part that actually made me go, huh. Let's go back.
Is all such surfaces. So this is the standard thing that people see in topology, right? So the surface of a ball is the surface of a ball, and you can deform it. You know, the surface of a football is the same as an American football. You can deform without cutting or tearing. And then the surface.
So basically, you could smoosh it into whatever it is. That's why the torus is topologically equivalent to a donut or a coffee cup or something like that. It's like, all right, if you have something with a handle, this is also a torus or a donut. Why? It's because it's got a hole. So if that was all clay, you could massage it and knead it to the point where it looks like a torus. Okay.
Of a donut is the same as your cup, right? Because it's everything that everyone the standard thing. It has one handle, and then so the surface of a donut is exactly the topologically what they call topologically homomorphic to the cup, and then you got the pretzel. So I think that's a pretzel. Or maybe I think this is like the German pretzel, and it gets more and more complicated. But Euler's because Euler invented the field of topology, so he realized this idea.
So basically, it seems something similar, was it? Edge minus faces equals. Is it faces minus faces plus edges equals vertexes plus 2 or minus faces plus edges minus vertex equals 2, and that apparently holds for all the planets. So let me check. Euler edges faces vertices faces plus vertices minus edges equal 2. Okay, that's what we get. Raise the number of faces on the polyhedron. All right, cool. Double checking. I always forget that.
Of topological equivalence, in the sense that there's a single topological invariant which we now call the Euler number, which characterizes these things. An equivalent way to say is the genus of these surfaces is no handles, one handle, two handle, three handles, and so on and so forth. It turns out that the Euler number, which we now call the Euler number, is 2 minus twice the genus. So 2 minus 2g. Okay, that's great.
That's fantastic. And to be fair, that's actually why I'm rewatching, because I remember hearing this before, and it's like, all right, here's some cool textures. Oh yeah, we need to re-listen to this part.
So that's the classic Euler's theorem, and then comes in Gauss, right? Once you got these three names next to each other, Euler, Gauss, and Riemann, it's got to be some
Gauss,
serious theorem, right? So Euler did.
Okay, so the finish thing is the one. Okay, so the curve there.
This in topology, and then Gauss did this incredible work, which he himself calls him the Theorema Egregium, the great theorem, which he considers this is his personal favorite, and this is Gauss,
wow.
right? And Gauss said you can relate this number to which is, this number is purely topological. You can relate this number to metric geometry. So he came up with this concept, which we now call Gaussian curvature.
Oh, the trichotomy classification of connected compact orientable surfaces. Summation. Euler. Topological classification of the dimension R equals 2. All right, so that's why it's flat. All right, Euler number. Some genus, blah blah blah. Makes topology, metric topology, and Riemann adds in, I think, a twist. Complexify Riemann surfaces or complex curves. Okay.
It's just some complicated stuff. You can characterize this a curvature, which you can define on this. Well, this is even before the word manifold existed, right? On the surface, and then you can integrate using calculus, and the integral of this Gaussian curvature divided by 4 pi is exactly equal to this topological number, and that's
So you basically divide by 4 pi over a sphere. And then it happens to give you that number.
incredible, right? The fact that you can do an integral, it comes out to be an integer, and that integer is exactly a topology. So this idea, this Gauss-related geometry to topology in this one sweep. And then what's even the next level comes Riemann. Riemann says, well, what you can do is to complexify.
Okay, so we're taking categorification of some stuff, saying, okay, there's some curvature going on here, which apparently, depending on the derivative exponent stuff, you go to some very interesting places. Oh, I'm here to do a show just on Snap, Crackle, and Pop. Why? Because it's clickbaity as heck. Listen, this is why I say that physicists are natural born trolls. Whatever. Okay. Distance. Okay. Distance per time. Okay. That's speed. Now, if it's accelerating, if it's time squared, that's acceleration. If it's time to the third, it's a jerk. Like, oh, it's a jerk. Oh, that makes sense. Wait, what did you say I was? Something at one point I was gonna do a short thing about one of my new favorite equations. They give you the inverse jerk. So yes, I am an inverse jerk. I claim. Okay, so how about this? Well, what about the rest of the derivative, like the 4th, 5th, and 6th? Huh. What are 3 things that we could name that might make sense? Oh well, jerk. What if I want to snap? That sounds more violent or something like that. That makes sense. Snap, snap, crackle, and pop. Why? Those are the key. Those are the elves. Snap. Yes, it was named after the elves. I'm assuming they got the snap because that's the thing that made sense, and then after that, it's crackle and pop. Yes, because your spine is crackling as you're bending back, and then obviously something just goes pop. Maybe it makes sense. I'm going to assume they were just trolling because they got the snap, and they're like, all right, let's have the elves figure it out. Who's going to argue with us? What, you want to make it something hard to remember? Come on. That's my personal thing. Let me see. About appointments for nothing like the real thing. Looks like a good show. Hey, don't worry about it, man. Do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. Rick is asking, why does water freeze at 27 degrees? Why does water freeze at 27 degrees? Oh. That's Rice Krispies. I don't know. I don't know. So let's see. Here's the thing. This is what I'm getting. I don't know. Google does not agree. Google's like, water doesn't freeze at 27 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius. Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. Which you might be thinking of. Seawater, which contains sulfur, also at lower temperatures than freshwater, around 28.4 degrees or -2. And then you get the wind chill and you get other things and stuff. And this is just from, oh, let's see. I'm sure this probably depends on salinity. It's like a hard freeze. For at least an hour or more, it means the seasonal vegetation will be destroyed. Let's see. We had Fahrenheit. Maybe that'll make a difference. I mean, that doesn't say. Oh, here we go. New water will clarify water freezes at a range of temperatures. It depends. Yeah, generally accepted. Thought it was gonna say you had to be traveling at like Mach 6 for it to work. Let's see. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Because even when you go into the whatever the government thing is about water and everything, when I was looking at that before, it did give you. Is there an article link? Foundation. Let's save this guy for later. Okay. There we go. Why does water? Well, can it still be water if it's under 20? Even though the direct contact with ice must be at least 30. There seem to be a lot of people arguing about this. All right, I think that might make it more interesting. So, I'm getting the same thing, my man. So, does water freeze at 27 degrees Fahrenheit? So I'm gonna assume it's because I don't have as much water in my search history and everything. But that's something we can talk about later. Because water is very fascinating. We've had Michael Hughes on before. We'll need to get him back for a part 2 where we can actually have more personal compute power and everything, and be able to go on and see what happens. But right here. All right. In the process of freezing. Okay. But all right. So raptors and AIs aside, where are we going from here? Only God knows. And I ain't that dude. So I think it's gonna be a heck of a ride. I think we're gonna see some very amazing things. All I know is the Consumer Electronics Show. When the head of NVIDIA comes out with like a wafer chip, and it's basically like, yeah, it's about the size of a manhole cover. It's like, yeah, this is our wafer chip. We're gonna use this to stack. It's got like 1.4 exaflops of compute and stuff like that. You're like, I don't even know if that's the right term there. That's a lot of flop, like 10 to the 18, something like that. But no, Rick, no, I understand. I've looked into that. It's that's just a general Google thing. It depends upon the other parameters of what it is there. I always thought it was cool where it would be like a really cold day, and then they'd be at like some airport in like either New Hampshire or like somewhere on like North Dakota. It's like, all right, with the wind right now, it's below -40. And I'm thinking, boy, I got a cup of water, and I throw it up in the air, and poof. just like instantly just turns to snow or ice, and you're just watching. You're like, huh, that's interesting. Why might that be the case? I assume there's more energy, so the molecules are moving, and then it's going through the air. And as they're moving around, they're quickly exposed, and they're cooled down. Then what starts to go, then it quickly goes. So the transition state, let's say. I mean, that's just my basic understanding of molecules and stuff and things. And again, that's not a huge amount. I ain't a chemist or anything, but so we got just be wary, because if a raptor can start to learn to use a door handle, and an AI agent can start to use a Wolfram, I don't know what happens when it starts opening up doors of its own. It's just a thought. Not saying if it's good or bad, but other than that, take care of yourselves, everyone. Peace out. Have yourselves a great weekend, and stay safe out there.